Sabbath series, and today we got Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. Now, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath is a classic record, as all, should I say, all of the first six Black Sabbath records, in my opinion. And this album is very interesting. It's very different, because this is where the band starts to really experiment. Now, Volume 4 definitely has an experimental side to it. The structures of the songs are a lot different than they were on the previous records. Um, some of the instrumentation used is a bit progressive for the band at the time. Uh, Changes, FX, songs like that are different from what the band was doing at the time. But it still, in general, is a heavy Black Sabbath album, and I love it for that reason. And it's a very wonderful record. Um, but Sabbath Bloody Sabbath is a lot different. But at the same time, it retains enough of the classic Sabbath sound, uh, so that the experimentation doesn't totally take up the sound on the album, meaning that it doesn't overkill. It is just a new take on the. I didn't even mean to pull one of my dreadlocks. Apologize. Yeah, it's just a different take on the classic Sabbath sound. What do I mean by that? Well, the band started to branch out. If you take a song like "Who Are You," it is keyboard dominant. Um, the sound is still heavy, but it's a lot more colorful, and there's a lot more textures to be heard. For example, uh, on the song Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, there's a lot of acoustic work, you know what I mean? In between very heavy walking, verses. Um, and then right after a really, really nice, soft acoustic part, a solo plays, and then this, and if you've listened to the song, you know what I'm talking about. This ridiculous, like, these ridiculously heavy, just Tony with just smacks you across the face and it reminds you that you're indeed listening to a Black Sabbath record. Um, and that album has a lot of this, you know what I mean? The compositions are a lot more progressive. Cadabra features, as does I believe multiple songs on the record, the keyboardist for Yes, and his name is slipping my mind unfortunately right now. I have a couple friends and my dad, who are big Wash fans. Wash fans, Yes fans. And I like them, they're cool, but I don't know the name of the guy who plays on this record, but he does a fantastic job, whoever he is, on a lot of these songs. Uh, as far as the production goes, it's very similar to uh, the previous album. The drum tone is kind of similar. The guitar tone is the album as a whole is a lot less loud than Volume 4 was. Volume 4 has a very, very loud, in-your-face production, which I, love. But this record is a bit more clean as far as the tones go. Still heavy, still dirty enough to be a real raunchy Black Sabbath record of the 70s, but it's a bit more polished. It's a little bit cleaned up compared to the sound on Volume 4, which is cool, because this album has so much more to listen to as far as the instruments being used and the time changes, and it's just a bit more of a nuanced record. I think that the cleaner production allows for an easier listening when you're taking in all the sounds. There's strings on this record on songs like Spiritual Architect, and it's just a really epic album. The lyrical content of the record is very similar to previous Sabbath records. Afterlife, uh, drugs, uh, society, conforming, things like that. All the great Sabbath topics, Satan, God, all that good stuff. Um, all the performances are wonderful. My only complaint, funny enough, actually, about the production is that the bass is a little pushed back, unfortunately. Um, it seems, the bass production hit a peak on Master of Reality. Geezer's bass was just this thick, just such a sweet, fat, like groovy tone that he had on that album. And unfortunately, as you know, the subsequent albums are released, it goes down a little bit as far as the bass goes, in my opinion. Not his performance, because Geezer's always amazing, but just the production on the bass. It's a little more hard to hear. But doesn't mean it's gone from the mix. It's still present. You just need to listen a little bit harder for it. The drums, again, are pushed a teeny bit back, but they sound very good. Bill Ward, I mean, I've talked so much about the guy already. He's like a drumming god, in my opinion. He's amazing, underrated as any drummer. Um, and he's just amazing. He's great. And this album is no exception. He does a wonderful, fantastic job. Um, and the riffs, I mean, they're come on. It's Tony Iommi. I don't know what you want me to say. The riffs are wonderful. The fact that he can write such heavy, dark, doomy riffs and mix it with just such lush like strings and keys and synths and all this different acoustic layering and all this stuff just shows how great of an artist Tony Iommi really is, and the whole band just did such a great job putting the record together. Ozzy sounds great. Again, I don't know what to say. I really don't. It's Ozzy Osbourne. 70s were his prime, undoubtedly. And he undoubtedly, and he just sounds great. Sounds awesome. Very very powerful wailing, great screams, awesome lyrics. Like always. Although Geezer writes most of the lyrics, Ozzy's deliverance of the lyrics is what makes them come to life, in my opinion. It takes two. The flow is great. There are, I believe there's one, yeah, there was instrument, so I haven't listened to it in a while, so I'm kind of trying to piece all my thoughts together. A song called Fluff, and it is an all acoustic piece, just like Should, or I think it's Kid, Embryo off, of Master of Reality, and then Laguna Sunrise off of Volume 4. It's like Laguna Sunrise very much in the fact that it's just kind of the same thing over and over and over again. But I don't care. I think it's wonderful. It sounds awesome, and it's just it's this album really is. I can't say it enough. This album really is epic. I hate to use that word because it's kind of an overused word, but this album is just so lush with sound, and it's so deep, and I find it to be almost somewhat of a meditative record, despite its more, heavy, aggressive Sabbath moments. I find it to be a somber kind of record sometimes. I just love it. Um, my favorite songs off the record, it's really hard to pick. I'd say Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, the title track, the opening track is just wonderful. It's very progressive. I love the progressions from soft to hard to very, very hard to very heavy. You know what I mean? It goes all over the place, and it's great. National Acrobat is just a grooving. It's one of the most consistently groovy, like head-bobbing Sabbath songs. It just has so many lifts that just keep getting just revealed as the song goes on. It's just wonderful. There's a great upbeat, happy part at the end. It's wonderful. Um, Killing Yourself to Live, wonderful lyrics. I think everyone can relate to those lyrics. The riffs, I mean, I'm like a broken record. It's wonderful. It's awesome. Um, oh man, Spiral Architect is wonderful. It's probably the softest song on the record if you don't um, count Fluff. Uh, great great string section, wonderful vocals. Um, just awesome. This album is just majestic, and I think it's really cool because, like I said in my volume 4, I think I mentioned it, and it's kind of a well documented, fact. I keep saying words that I don't know if it's the right word. Documented, you mean documented? It's very well documented that in the recording process of Volume 4, they didn't know what they were doing. They kind of were just staring at Tony like, all right, write a riff. And they didn't have a direction. They didn't really know what they wanted to do with the record. Now, I don't care because I think that album definitely does have a theme to it. It has a feel to it, and it's just great. I love it. But, the band themselves, when they were first writing it, they really didn't have any idea what they wanted to do and what direction they wanted to go in. And this record is totally different. They, started again, right back, like in the Volume 4 session. They didn't know what to do. They were just looking at Tony, and they said that Tony wrote the riff to Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, and they got really excited. And as they started to write it, they just started to come up with all these other, ideas to make the album what it is. So it's a classic Sabbath record. It came out in 1973. Um, it's awesome. Just another classic Sabbath record that you need to check out if, maybe you're a fan of the band, but you haven't heard it yet, or, maybe you've heard, like for me, I remember Master of Reality, it was my first full Sabbath record. I had already heard, like, Paranoid and War Pigs and Iron Maiden, pretty much almost half of Paranoid, you know what I mean? And I got Master of Reality, and the second I heard it, I loved it. The second I heard the whiff to Sweet Leaf, I was like, yeah, dude, this is fucking bitchin'. Like, this is awesome. And, then it was a little harder for me to get into the rest of the Sabbath record, to be honest with you. I liked Paranoid, but there was a couple songs I didn't like off of it. Now I like pretty much everything they did from, Black Sabbath to Sabotage. There's really not a song I don't like. But this album, it took a while to get into, and I'll never forget it. I got into this band when I was 15, and I was in 10th grade, and I remember I just couldn't get into this record. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to give this album another chance, and I'm really going to listen to it. So I remember I was in art class, and I was sitting next to this guy that I liked, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try to not focus on that, and I'm going to try to listen to this album. And I remember just, like, sitting there, listening to the album, and, like, digging it for the first time, and, like, drawing, like, looking up at it, and drawing, like, all like that, listening to Black Sabbath. So I have a lot of good memories with this album and this band. So yeah, nice sentimental moment to end the review here. This album is amazing. Really, it's great. Highly recommended if you are a Sabbath fan. And if you are a Sabbath fan, what are you doing? X out of this video and get this fucking album, because it's awesome. So, I'm out. We got a couple of views coming up. We got either Master of Puppets or Ride the Lightning. I'm going to revisit Metallica. For a certain guy, you know who you are. I love pointing at the camera with this thing. It's like, it feels so cool. We got Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness coming up. We got stuff, in the works. So, thank you guys very much, and I will see you guys later. Get this album because it's fucking awesome.